This is a podcast by the Business Times. Welcome to Wealth with BT. Learn to protect and grow your wealth in this monthly podcast series by the Business Times, hosted by BT Wealth editor Genevieve Hua. This episode is brought to you by Ascend by Prudential.
How do you feel about living to your 90s or even 100? If you are currently fairly young, in your 20s or 30s, that may seem like a very remote possibility. But it's a prospect that you shouldn't dismiss out of hand. Life expectancy in Singapore is steadily creeping upwards. Today, a person at 65 can expect to live to nearly 85 for males and about 88 for females. And the number of centenarians, people who are age 100 and older, has doubled over the past 10 years, from about 700 in 2010 to about 1,500 in 2020. Longevity has many serious implications, so you can't be blamed if you're not exactly enthusiastic at the prospect of a very long life. One big worry is your finances. If you live until your 90s, your retirement savings will have to last more than 30 years, assuming you retire at 60. Many would say they do not want to live until a very old age if their health were to deteriorate and leave them with a very poor quality of life. Yet another worry is, who is going to take care of you? Singaporeans are having smaller families, and some choose not to have children at all. Traditionally, children are seen as a pillar of support for elderly parents, but this may not be the case in the future. Millennials today are fairly realistic about the future. A survey by Prudential called Saving for 100 found that only 30% expect their children to care for them in their senior years. But the prospect of a long life should not inspire fear or dread, because really, longevity is a gift. You'll have more time to spend with and deepen your relationships with family and friends. You have time to build up your savings. And this is no small matter. And you have time to pursue personal aspirations that may be totally unrelated to your career, which can give you a deeper sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. But how do you make this leap from fear to optimism and confidence? Financial planning is key. We often equate financial planning with retirement savings, but it encompasses much more than that. What are the elements of a holistic plan? First, there is financial wellness planning to help you achieve your financial goals, whether it is children's education, retirement savings, or a plan to pay up your home loan in full. Second is protection planning. And third is the nurturing and development of your personal intangible assets, which include your talents, health, your network of family and friends. We'll talk more about intangible assets in a while. In almost all these aspects of financial planning, longevity is your friend. We asked Goh Theng Kiat, Prudential's Chief Customer Officer, for his insights on financial planning and why time is on your side.
It is important to have proper financial planning to identify the goals and, more importantly, the gaps to achieve them in all our different life stages. Building one's retirement nest egg is no different, and this is where time is actually an interesting element here. With a longer time span or longer lifespan, we have to prepare even more, and at the same time, we have more time to accumulate wealth. With a longer lifespan, we have a longer runway to build our wealth and ride out any market volatility. Time can actually be our greatest asset if we stay invested, especially if we start young.
There are a few key principles to saving for retirement. 1. Start early. A small amount put aside regularly into a sensible, balanced portfolio enables you to harness the power of compounding. Even $100 or $200 a month invested regularly could grow into a sizable pot in 20 or 30 years. 2. Decide on a strategic asset allocation, which is the balance of stocks and bonds for your portfolio. When you are young, you can put in a greater amount into equities, but it also may be as simple as a 50-50 balance of equities and bonds, and stick to it. 3. Be diversified. That means to make sure your eggs aren't put into very concentrated investments like single stocks or even bonds. This ensures that you are cushioned against specific stock or market risks. Bear in mind that it is important to take some risk because your deposits earn practically nothing. While you won't lose your capital in deposits, you run the very big risk that over the long run, your assets do not achieve enough growth to fund your living expenses later in retirement, let alone keep up with inflation. A holistic plan also takes care of your intangible assets, which I mentioned earlier. Intangible assets are your talents and special interests, family and friends, and even your reputation and health. Cultivating all these could give you a deep sense of fulfillment, even if they do not yield an income. Intangible assets cannot be priced or traded like financial assets, but their value may rise with time and help sustain us over a long life.
You're listening to Genevieve Kwa, host of Wealth with BT. Do follow our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcasts. Like us and give us a rating. Now back to our episode brought to you by Ascend by Prudential.
There is yet another thing that can help you to make that leap into viewing longevity with optimism and hope. It is to change your mindset about life's phases. This is the central proposition of a book by Linda Grattan and Andrew Scott called The 100-Year Life. We typically think of our life in 3 phases. The first phase is education, which may take us into our mid-20s. Then there is career, which may last until 60. And then retirement for maybe 30 or 35 years. But if we are to live fulfilling lives to our 90s or even 100, we need to break free from this box of a 3-stage life and think of our lives as multistage. Education, for example, need not be confined to the first phase of our lives. We can pursue education as we work, and even in retirement, anytime we feel we need it. And your income earning phase need not be confined to your traditional working years. In fact, your talents can earn you an income well past retirement. Goh Theng Kiat is Prudential's Chief Customer Officer. He earlier told us why time is so important in financial planning. We asked him where financial planning fits into a multi-stage life.
In a multi-stage life, we would have different goals at the different various life stages. Financial planning becomes crucial when we reach each of these different stages of life. In pursuing these goals, there may not be any active income that we'll be receiving. And yet, we need to bear in mind that these goals perhaps would need resources for it to be fulfilled and to be achieved. For example, I think among some of our friends, we would find some of them returning to school in their 40s to pursue their knowledge in an interest area they have always been interested in, or to actually start a business in the later part of their life, perhaps even in their 60s. All these goals would need some form of resources for them to be achieved. As we get ready for 100, we need to take care of other things as well, besides just our finances. This would include our health, personal development, and relationship. It's important to take care of all of them, remain open to learning and new work opportunities, and develop supportive relationships to help us actually be very healthy mentally and emotionally. These are the areas that we need to focus on to thrive in the longer life and get ready for 100. This will enable us to approach longevity with greater confidence and peace of mind.
We've just heard from Prudential's Goh Theng Kiat. The key is to have an open mind about your life stages and to keep improving ourselves and our many relationships. And get started on a financial plan, which you'll find very empowering. That's it for now. I'm Genevieve Kwa, your host of the Wealth with BT podcast.
This episode of Wealth with BT is brought to you by Ascend by Prudential. In the next episode, we're going to look into how to balance multiple financial goals at the same time.
That was an SBH podcast by the Business Times. Find us on Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts, or streaming on Google Home. Do feedback to us at podcast@sbh.com.sg. You can also check out more podcasts on various topics at The Straits Times, The Business Times, and Money FM 89.3. Any financial or investment information in this podcast is for use in Singapore only and is intended to be for your general information. Any particular investment or decision should only be made after consulting with a fully qualified financial advisor.